Have you ever caught yourself questioning your own memories? Not because they were blurry, but because someone made you feel like they never happened at all. There's a kind of pain that doesn't leave scars. It doesn't scream or bleed. It whispers. It lingers in the silence between words. In the way someone looks at you when you speak your truth and says, "That didn't happen." And then again, louder this time. You're imagining things. This isn't just manipulation, it's erasure. A slow dismantling of your reality until you no longer trust what used to be certain. The worst part, you start believing them. You begin to wonder if it's really you who's wrong. If maybe you're losing your mind. But what if you're not going crazy? What if someone just built the world around you to make sure you would? Gaslighting is not madness. It is design. It's not about lies. It's about control. A quiet war waged inside your mind, where doubt becomes the weapon and confusion becomes the battlefield. And the most terrifying thing? You don't even know when it started. Only that something has been off for far too long. So now you ask yourself, who am I without their version of me? What happens when you stop looking to others to tell you who you are? What if your mind was never broken, only borrowed? You trusted someone enough to let them into your world. Now they've rewritten it. And the hardest part? You still hear their voice, inside your own head. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that doesn't reflect, it distorts. Not just slightly. Not just for fun, like those carnival mirrors that stretch your face and make you laugh at yourself. No, this mirror is different. It doesn't show you as you are. It shows you as they want you to be. Or worse, as someone who cannot be trusted to know the truth. You look into it and see your reflection, but something feels wrong. Off, as if your own image has been rewritten without your permission. The more you stare, the less familiar you become. Your memories blur. Your emotions feel foreign. Even your voice sounds like an echo of someone else's. And then you realize, this mirror was placed here on purpose. Someone built it. Someone positioned it so you would see only what they wanted you to see. And now, every time you look into it, you walk away with a little less of yourself. That's gaslighting. It doesn't come with violence or shouting. It comes quietly, with a smirk, a sigh, a subtle correction, a carefully timed silence. It starts small. A word twisted, a moment denied, a feeling dismissed. But over time, those moments stack up like dust on forgotten truths. Until one day, you can no longer tell where their version ends and yours begins. You used to trust your senses. Now you hesitate before speaking. You second-guess your memories. You question your feelings, because someone made sure you would. They never needed chains, just confusion. They never needed lies, just enough doubt. And now, even when you're alone, you still hear them, in your mind, in your choices, in the way you apologize for simply existing. The mirror may be inside you now, but it was never yours to begin with. So ask yourself, what would happen if you broke it? Power doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it speaks softly. Sometimes it holds your hand while rewriting your reality. Michel Foucault once wrote that power does not only repress, it produces. It creates truths, identities, realities. It doesn't just say no, it says this is real, and by doing so makes everything else disappear. Gaslighting is not madness. It is design. A carefully orchestrated erosion of self-trust. A psychological architecture meant to isolate you from your own inner compass. And the most insidious part, it often comes from someone close, someone you love, or worse, someone you depend on. They don't need to chain you. They just need you to doubt. Because once you question your own senses, your own memories, your own emotions, you become pliable, malleable, easy to shape, easy to control. Think about it. How much of what you believe to be true was decided by someone else? How many times have you been told what you saw, what you felt, what you experienced wasn't real? How many times did you accept it? That's the genius of gaslighting. It doesn't require violence, just repetition. A soft, constant pressure on the soul until something breaks. And what breaks is you. You used to trust yourself. You knew when something hurt. You knew when something didn't feel right. You knew when someone crossed a line. But now, every time you tried to speak up, they responded with confusion, with pity, with a calm certainty that made you feel like you were overreacting. And slowly, you started believing them. Because when someone repeats something long enough, especially someone you trust, it begins to feel like truth, even if it's not yours. This is not just emotional abuse. This is epistemic violence. The destruction of your ability to know yourself, to trust your own mind, to claim your own experience as valid. Foucault called it the politics of truth. He said that knowledge is never neutral, that truth is produced by those in power, that what we accept as real is shaped by invisible forces, institutions, relationships, systems of control. And sometimes, those systems are not governments or ideologies. Sometimes they're people, lovers, parents, friends, leaders, authorities, voices that echo inside your head long after they've left. So ask yourself, what version of you were you allowed to be? What parts of you had to stay silent to survive? Gaslighting isn't just about lies, it's about legitimacy. Who gets to define reality? Who gets to decide what counts as truth? Who owns your story? And who took yours? These words echo in the silence left behind after someone has rewritten your reality. Truth isn't some sacred, untouched light descending from above. It's not pure, it's not neutral, it's constructed, curated, weaponized, and when you're being gaslit, you are living proof of that truth. Foucault showed us that power doesn't only reside in governments or institutions, it lives in relationships, in language, in the way someone insists that your version of reality is flawed, while theirs is absolute. Power is not applied to inert matter. It is directed at minds, at knowledge, at behavior. Michel Foucault. That's exactly what gaslighting does. It's not just deception. It's domination through disorientation. It's making you feel like the problem is within you, when in fact, the system is designed to make you feel that way. You were never broken. You were simply placed inside a structure meant to break you. And sometimes, that structure is a partner, a parent, a boss, a nation, a culture, a belief system. A voice that repeats, "You misunderstood," until you start to believe it yourself. He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. George Orwell. Sound familiar? Gaslighting is history rewritten in real time. It's the erasure of your personal narrative until you can no longer distinguish truth from fiction, until even your own thoughts feel alien. This is not just emotional abuse. This is epistemic violence, the slow dismantling of your ability to trust what you saw, what you felt, what you lived. And the most terrifying part? They don't need to convince everyone else. They only need to convince you. Because once you doubt your own perception, you lose the right to speak your truth. You begin to censor yourself, to apologize for remembering, to question your pain. Who sees the deepest into your soul also has the power to wound it the most. Friedrich Nietzsche. Gaslighting thrives in intimacy, because only those closest to you have the power to reshape your reality without resistance. They know how to twist your words, how to frame your emotions as flaws, how to turn your vulnerability into weakness. But here's what they fear: a person who remembers, a mind that refuses to forget, a voice that says, "I was there, I saw it, I felt it, and I will not erase myself to make you comfortable." Because once you reclaim your story, you take back your truth. There's a moment, one single moment, when you realize you've been living inside someone else's version of you. It hits like a cold wave, not anger, not sadness, something deeper. A visceral recognition that your entire sense of self has been shaped by someone else's agenda. That the voice in your head whispering doubts isn't yours, it's theirs. Repeating back what they wanted you to believe. And now you're caught in a paradox. If you fight back, you're unstable. If you stay silent, you disappear. If you speak, you're wrong. If you walk away, you're weak. So where do you go? You look for proof, for validation. For someone who will say, yes, I saw it too, but they're gone, or afraid, or complicit, and suddenly you're alone with your unraveling. The hardest part? You still love them, or worse, you still need them. And that makes it harder to admit the truth. They broke you, on purpose, not all at once, not with violence, with soft words, with subtle corrections, with carefully timed silences and knowing glances, with just enough affection to make you stay, with just enough doubt to make you question everything. They never needed chains, just confusion. And now, even when they're not there, their presence remains. Inside you, in the way you hesitate before speaking, in the way you apologize for existing, in the way you twist yourself into shapes just to be seen. You used to trust your instincts. Now you second-guess every feeling. You used to believe in your memories. Now you wonder if you imagined it all. You used to know who you were. Now you ask yourself, was any of it real? Or was I always just a reflection of someone else's control? This is the breaking point, where you must choose. Continue pretending everything is fine, or face the unbearable truth that the person you trusted most was the one who made you forget yourself. And the worst part? They knew exactly what they were doing. They built this doubt, brick by brick. They reinforced it every time you tried to speak up, every time you tried to remember, every time you tried to feel. And now, here you are, standing at the edge of something vast and unknown, with no map, no guide, only the echo of your own voice asking, who am I without their story? What happens if I stop playing their game? What if I simply remember? But remembering is dangerous, because once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. Once you name the manipulation, it loses its power. Once you recognize the mirror for what it is, it shatters, and from the pieces, something new begins to take shape. A version of you that no longer needs permission to exist. A mind that refuses to be rewritten. A soul that remembers itself. Freedom doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from clarity. You won't get an apology. You won't get justice. What you will get is awareness. And that awareness is the first brick in rebuilding your inner world. You begin to notice the patterns, the subtle ways you were made to feel wrong, the invisible lines drawn around your thoughts, the soft tyranny of expectations that kept you small. You learn to listen again, not to others, but to yourself, to the parts of you that survived, that remembered, that whispered beneath the noise. And slowly, something shifts. You stop asking, was I wrong? And start asking, who benefits when I doubt myself? That question changes everything. Because once you understand that your confusion was manufactured, you can dismantle it. You don't need permission to trust yourself again. You don't need approval to reclaim your story. You don't need anyone's blessing to stop playing their game. All you need is the courage to turn the lights on and see the mirror for what it truly is. Gaslighting thrives in darkness, in silence, in the spaces between words where doubt grows like mold. But now, you've stepped into that space. You've named what was hidden. And by doing so, you've taken away its power. This isn't about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's not even about healing in the way people talk about it, with timelines and closure and neat little resolutions. No, this is about remembering, about returning to the self that existed before they tried to rewrite you, before they told you how to feel, before they corrected your memories, before they made you apologize for being real. There is a version of you that never believed their lies, a version buried under years of manipulation, of quiet betrayals, of carefully placed doubts. And now, that version is waking up. It speaks in forgotten dreams, in moments of clarity that vanish too quickly, in the sudden urge to walk away from conversations that used to trap you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's silent, like the moment the fog lifts, like the breath before you speak your truth, like the pause between heartbeats when you finally understand. You are not broken. You were never lost. You were simply hidden. And now, you are beginning to find yourself again. Not through grand declarations, not through validation from others, but through the quiet certainty that no one, not even the person who tried to erase you, can take your truth from you, because the moment you remember who you are, you become untouchable. You walked into their world thinking you were broken. Now ask yourself, what if you were whole all along? The greatest illusion is the belief that you lost yourself. Maybe you were never lost. Maybe you were simply hidden, buried under layers of doubt, fear, and borrowed truths. Now that you've begun to dig, what will you find? Will you recognize the voice behind your thoughts? Will you trust the memories you once questioned? Will you finally allow yourself to be real? The mirror may still distort, but now, you know it's not yours. And that knowledge, that's the beginning of freedom. You no longer need permission to remember. You no longer have to justify your pain. You no longer have to twist yourself into shapes just to be seen. Because the moment you stop looking outside for validation, something inside you settles. You stop asking, was I wrong? And start asking, who needed me to believe I was? That shift changes everything. It doesn't erase the past. It doesn't undo the damage. But it gives you something far more powerful, clarity. And from clarity, strength is born. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Like roots beneath the earth, like silence after a storm, like the first breath after years of holding it in. So now, look at yourself again. Not through their eyes, not through their words, not through the distorted glass they gave you. Look with your own vision and ask, who am I when no one is watching?